What's your story? Whether you're a client or an independent financial advisor, we know you face many important decisions that can affect your and your clients' long-term financial success. Welcome to the WIN Podcast, What's Important Now with Corey Heimensen, accredited investment fiduciary and president of Heimensen Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, Corey helps you identify your goals and objectives through financial education and comprehensive planning, while inspiring you to make better behavioral decisions in your personal finance. With a twist on pop culture and current events, join us as we explore growth and protection strategies for individuals, advisors, and their businesses. Come and discover what's important to you now.
Hello and welcome to the WIN Podcast with Corey Heimensen. Corey, I know you've got a great guest in studio today. I'm so excited to hear what you guys are talking about. Take it away.
Thanks, Eric. Good to see you. And yeah, I'm fired up today. You know, I've had a lot of feedback from listeners that they like guests. So apparently they either like guests or they're tired of listening to me by myself. So, you know, you do what the listeners want, right? So, longtime friend of mine, his name's Caleb Montag. He's actually a financial advisor. So I'm bringing somebody inside the circle, and we're just going to have a conversation and have some good times. We're calling this Coach's Corner. So people can armchair quarterback us, but we're going to throw some things out there. So I'm going to say hello to Caleb.
Hey, Corey. Thanks for having me here.
Hey, you bet. Appreciate you coming in today. And why don't we just start off, whatever introduction you'd like to throw or put on yourself, your open mic.
Sure. Well, like you said, my name is Caleb Montag, and I grew up right here in Rock Rapids, Iowa, where you've been practicing for forever. Yeah. We don't have to name the amount of years. So yeah, I grew up right here in Rock Rapids, Iowa. Currently reside in Sioux Falls, South Dakota with my wife, Ellen, and our 2-year-old son. And we also have a dog as well. So like you said, I'm a financial advisor like yourself and a member of your firm's advisory council as well.
Yeah, we're going to dig a little deeper into that down the road here. But first, I just want to address the elephant in the room. I'm sure there's listeners out there thinking, geez, Corey, why would you bring in another advisor? Because they might do things differently than you. And that's cool, because I know Eric always laughs when I use the skin the cat reference, because we've done that before. But there are different ways to do things. And I want to educate people out there that, you know, that my way, while I think might be great, it might not be the only way to get to a destination. And when we refer to coaches or coaching, you know, and I've said that before too, that it doesn't matter if you're a golfer or you need healthcare assistance or a lawyer or legal work, you know, you go to somebody that can know their role and take care of things that are on the deeper end of the pool. And that's why I knew you'd be a good fit, Caleb, to come in here, and we'll maybe talk philosophy and theory and have a good time is kind of the plan. Yeah,
that sounds good. And I know, you know, obviously we run into some of the same crowd, just both of us having our roots from Rock Rapids. And when I bring up that we work together, I think it confuses people a lot too. You know, they don't quite understand why or how, and you know what, but it's okay if they don't understand it. Really, it's more than people realize. I think our clients both benefit from the amount that you and I communicate, discuss ideas, and talk about different topics for sure.
Yeah, and I guess I'd say this too. You have a young child, so you're in a different phase of life than mine. Mine are all out of the house, and so for the listeners out there that have never maybe seen us eye to eye, that means we're of different generations. So my expertise is different, and my skill set for younger investors might be different than your outlook. And so it's cool to have colleagues, I'll say, kind of in an advisory council type or a group organization where everybody's got a little different skill set or set of expertise.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, we'll go a little deeper in that relationship, because you're right. We do want to explain to listeners how we are independent advisors, but also kind of teamed up, kind of a next man up type approach. But let's get a little deeper into you. How about, you got any hobbies or anything fun you like to talk about?
Yeah, you know, I guess I'd say I'm a pretty avid outdoorsman, hunter. My wife is also, so it's kind of a family deal with us, and we'll go out and hunt anything from deer to elk to pheasants and ducks and whatever. And actually, my wife shot an elk a few years ago here. I didn't get to shoot one, so that's constantly hanging over my head that she killed an elk and I didn't. But so I'd say hobbies, that keeps us busy. Our 2-year-old keeps us very busy. And aside from that, my wife and I are both business owners. And so we stay pretty focused on all of those things that we have going on with that. But that's.
And I'll throw a spoiler in there too. Sometimes clients or investors, I think they feel that advisors, planners like us are all about stock market or all about bond market, that we're not about assisting a client with their business, whether it's a valuation thing or planning. And off the air, I know we were just talking, you've got some cool tools that you use to assist certain clients. I don't know if you want to go off on a tangent on that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a lot of different tools that we use to really help people just with organization of assets as well. There's a lot more to what we do for clients than just looking at their investment portfolios and trying to make sure that that's all up to snuff. I kind of like to think of what we do as positioning, at least at my firm, is positioning ourselves as the quarterback of their financial world. So, ideally, we would like to be in touch with their CPA, their lawyers, their estate planning lawyers, their bankers in certain situations. And it helps us be more proactive with everything that we do if we can know all the details versus, the worst case scenario, I think, is when we have to be reactive when the CPA knew something that we didn't know and the result is not a desirable outcome. So along with that, I think it kind of goes along with the title of this podcast you call the Coach's Corner. And it's interesting when I set out, out of high school, it's a long time ago also, but I didn't know which direction I wanted to go. But one field that always had my attention was teaching and coaching. And I ended up at the University of Iowa, did not get accepted to the teaching program because at the University of Iowa, everything's competitive. And so anyways, it was a turning point where I had to figure something out and ended up meeting my dad's cousin, Bill Montag, who was a financial advisor. My dad thought he was a CPA, which he wasn't, and I'm glad he wasn't. I'm glad I'm an advisor and not a CPA. Nothing against CPAs, but he asked me what my plans were, where I thought I was going, and I put out there that I was interested in teaching and coaching, and he kind of smiled as if he already knew where I was going to go, and he said, "Why don't you work for me for a few months, and we'll see if you still want to teach." And what I learned really quickly from having him kind of take me under his wing into the industry was it's really what we do 90% of the time is educate, teach, coach, bring people to, these ideas and strategies that will make them money, save them money, or however that all, get them closer to their financial goals, essentially. So interesting that I think the title of the podcast definitely can align with our industry for sure.
Yeah, there is so much to what we do. And I know I've hit some of those things before, and Eric probably gets tired of me, but it really comes down to, let's say me. I can't know everything about everything, nor can Caleb or Eric or the next person down the street. But there are people that know a lot of things and can provide a lot of value in all kinds of categories. And in theory, we could call them all coaches because they know something that we don't know, or they know how to get the best out of us. Maybe that's the better way to explain that my clients or Caleb's clients, they aren't perfect. They don't necessarily do all the right things at the right time. They might still have some emotional lapses of judgment when it comes to investing or life or whatever. And, you need somebody in your corner. And it's funny because Caleb and I kind of run two different types of business models, I guess I'd say. And I've talked about mine. Mine is probably more, I'm going to say broad-based, meaning we assist clients from different asset levels, I guess is the best way to say that, where, and I'm not trying to speak for Caleb, I'll let him dig into this, but his is more of a specialized operation. I don't know is that a fair statement? Sure. Would you say that you've chosen, and kudos to you, you've chosen to maybe narrow your niche, sort of, which allows you to, like you said, gather more information, maybe go a little deeper.
Right.
I'm guilty of, certain clients, if they're early in the project and they don't have many tools in the toolbox, their plan maybe doesn't require as much time and energy from my staff when they're 22 years old, but down the line it will. So
Sure.
I'll defer back to you a little bit on that one.
Yeah, and I think we have the same intentions when we go out every day, and maybe one thing where that ends up being a little bit different is geographically, your office is located in a small town, and in a small town, you help everybody. You can't tell someone, well, you just don't have enough money, don't call me. And so I think that's one thing that's special too, is, your office finds a way to help anybody, whether they have $5,000 or $5 million. And that's definitely a cool thing too, versus like you said, my office is I refer to it as much more of a boutique type setting where it's really just me. That's who the clients are going to get in touch with. We have some support, but to help us with paperwork and things. But for the most part, they're going to deal with me. They have my cell phone numbers. So if they have a question on a Friday night, they'll call me, and sometimes they do. And, for the most part, it doesn't bother me because I don't want someone worrying about something all weekend.
Right.
So that's a big thing is it's a very personalized touch. And then, as you said, working with a higher net worth individual and less of them, I have more time to really dive in, help them with all the different areas of planning, which I guess kind of goes into, I'm a certified financial planner. CFP is kind of the letters you would see with that a lot. And so a lot of people think that's just a few letters behind your name, but to become a CFP, you have to test out of retirement planning, investment planning, tax planning, estate planning, fundamentals of financial planning, obviously. And I'm probably missing something there. I'm sure I am, but you test out of each of those areas, you take a cumulative test. So you prove that you have competence in all those areas. And so that's where I try to put myself as the quarterback in the middle of their financial goals is, the more that I talk to people, the more that I do realize that's something not a lot of advisors try to do. A lot of advisors, they just want one piece of it, whether it's the life insurance or it's just the investments or it's just however it is. And for me, I'm glad that I can help people with more than just that. But, and I want to be clear for compliance listening that I don't offer tax planning advice or anything like that, or legal advice. But no, we go down a lot of different roads, and I just say very specialized for each person. So it's a little different.
I'm having a flashback to the NFL season a few months ago, and there was a picture of Brock Purdy, the 49ers quarterback, who kind of got thrown into his role after a couple of injuries. And so it's a picture of him and Tom Brady, shaking hands on the field after the game. And the caption says, "The GOAT and Tom Brady." It was Purdy's first start in the NFL, and, looks like he's 18 years old and he just beat Tom Brady. And so you joke about the quarterback thing, but,
And I think I saw, to add to that, I think I saw that he was actually Tom Brady's twice his age. I believe that's what I read about that too. So
I suppose he went up, "Nice game, Mr. Brady."
Yeah.
Yeah, I see he didn't ask to trade jerseys because he probably would have got the reject on that one, right?
Yeah.
So no offense, Tom, if you're out there listening, or Brock.
I'm sure they are.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they will be. But, it goes back to that advisory council thing. Let's go there. This is kind of a cool thing, and this is going to be something that people don't realize, but we're not just coaches to clients. Caleb and I have teamed up to actually be coaches for financial advisors and professionals. So I'll take a pause so you can think about that. Kind of blows your mind, like, what? These guys are sharp enough to coach advisors, not just clients? Yeah, there's the plug of the day. And where we're going with this is basically we have advisors who come to us for financial advice on running their business, fine-tuning whether their operation is a boutique or a broad-based, hate to call mine a factory, but if you assist everybody systematically, probably in too much of a reactionary way instead of a proactive way, that kind of becomes a factory. But there's different ways for independent financial advisors, whether they have staff or not, to improve themselves. And so we do that. And we do that in different ways. I mean, there are advisors that are willing to essentially pay us financial planning fees to write their ship. It doesn't matter if they're running a small book, a big book, or they've been around for 10 days or 10 years. We can assist an advisor with their business because we know the business, just like we can help a hardware store owner or a farmer or a retail shop owner, whatever it is. And so Caleb and I have worked together now several years.
I think 4, right?
4 years.
Just over 4.
And we do have, there are advisors that look out to us for assistance. And we do this kind of behind the radar. We're not out to steal their clients, but it comes down to, a big piece of this is succession and continuity. Mm-hmm. Because if I get hit by a bus, and I've talked about this before, I need a plan in place for my operation to keep going so that there's value for my family, number one, but even more important for my clients to be taken care of. And that doesn't matter. It'd be the same thing for Caleb's business or advisor A or B or C or John, Jane, whoever it is. They can team up with us. Mm-hmm. And so some of those, elect to do that directly where they can even use our staff, our collective staff people to better their operation. And like I said, some just do it for hey, we want to pay you. How do we figure out this problem? Mm-hmm. And
I think it's a big benefit to that is, as you mentioned, the succession planning and continuity planning, where you get the question. I get it a lot. I'm sure you get it a lot too, where people ask you, what happens if you get hit by a bus get hit by a bus tomorrow? You've got my whole life savings right here. So if you get hit by a bus, does that just go away, or who do I call? And that's something I think it's not you and I have both figured that out, that it's not something that many people have planned for or really put anything in place with. And it's extremely important for the clients. It's extremely important for these advisors' families, for their staff. They're going to be without a job pretty soon if we don't figure things out. So that's something I feel that's probably been the most valuable that we've been able to kind of try to fine tune and bring to people. Yep. Is that idea of let's have a plan in place and try to.
And here's something that's really cool. And Caleb and I joke about this. If we go to industry conferences for continuing education and so forth, you're in a room with thousands of advisors, literally. And there's this process of, as you meet people throughout the week or go into those meetings, you can get a feel for the ones that you Caleb, or you, Corey, would actually invest money with if we were a client on the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you narrow that list in a hurry, because there's a lot of them in there you think, my God, does anybody do business with this person? But they might have been in the industry for 30 years. So then, once you talk to that type of person or make that judgmental call, right? If Caleb or I then share the concept of this advisory council with that type of an advisor, it's interesting to me how it correlates. The ones that you get a good feel of that you would invest with are the ones that will understand what Caleb and I have built of, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to be coached, to have a relationship with a bigger organization, to know what we're doing. The advisors that you would not invest with, if I pitch this or Caleb pitches this to them, they look at you like you're crazy. Like, well, you must want something from me. You want my business, or Mm-hmm. So you can tell the difference between a quality advisor and a less than average advisor, I guess is how I would say that. I mean, is that a fair?
Yeah, and not to go too far down this rabbit hole, I guess, or maybe it's okay if we do, but I think it's kind of funny because you hear the analogy in other industries, like the mechanic always has squeaky brakes, or the, right. the plumber has a leaking faucet. And it is funny to see that follow through to our industry, and it's very behind the scenes, because nobody can see those things operationally, but the advisor that helps all their clients set up their lives and their plans perfectly doesn't even have a continuity plan if they have a heart attack on their way home from work today.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of funny because it's a little different. It's not a visual thing, but it's definitely along the same line where they spend all day working on everybody else's stuff and they're never working on their own stuff.
I'm having a fun thought all of a sudden. I'm coming out of left field at you. That's what I do. Did you know, Caleb, since we're picking on the auto mechanic, we're going to pick on the realtors of North America next. So did you know that when a realtor lists their own property, their own house, or their own kind of real estate, on average, that property stays on the market longer, by a long ways, over the listings that they give out for their customers. Does that surprise you?
I'm thinking through this. I believe a realtor actually has to disclose when it's their personal property. I don't know if that would have anything to do with it.
See, we didn't prep this. I'm throwing this at you.
Yeah.
Yes, they have to dot a lot of I's, cross a lot of T's, but the real gist of this
is they don't.
From what I've read, is that they value their real estate either too high or at what I would argue the realistic value of what it should be.
Yeah.
Because, they're willing to wait for the right price. I'm probably going to get hate mail from the industry. I'm getting deeper on it.
You better be careful here.
I don't have any realtors in my immediate family, so Christmas next year shouldn't be a problem. But for argumentative sake, let's just say the reason that all their client listings sell faster is that the realtor looks them in the eye and says, boy, I think this should be valued at X. Maybe that's accurate, but maybe that's a little below market value because the realtor wants to turn that property and not have to advertise it so long to get their commission.
You think maybe they did a CNA before they listed the house? The commission needs analysis? I'm sorry, that was a joke.
So maybe the bigger takeaway there, and trust me, realtors do a great thing. If I was going to sell a property, I'm absolutely using a realtor. I'm not going to do it on my own. Don't want to deal with that headache. They know what they're doing. They're expert at it. Okay. That being said, I've maybe mended that fence. But the point of that, again, and this all ties back to finance. We always get back there. I know Eric's laughing at me over there in the corner. But there are pretenders and legitimate real deal people in every industry, maybe is where I'm going with that. And so you trust who you want.
I think you could pull that back into those conversations that, we have with other advisors too, where you tell them about a book of business that's for sale, a gentleman trying to retire or something, and well, that's way too expensive. But then when it comes down to what their book is worth, they seem to have a higher feeling too. It's probably a lot of it's human nature, but we definitely see that in our industry as well. So,
and if you're a business owner that really believes in your business and your customers, your clients, you want them to have a good experience after you're gone and out of that business.
Definitely.
And it doesn't matter if it's selling a realtor office or in ours, but that's where we provide the backstop for a lot of advisors out there, both inside of our group and outside of the group, so that they know if something happens to them that their clients, I should say, have a phone number to call the next day or an email. And we're going to provide our information here in a little bit, just if anybody's interested in learning more about this type of thing, because, man, it's important. You work hard your whole life. You don't want to mess it up because you didn't finish the race, so to speak, or the planning race. So, okay, let's go totally off topic. How about, I always like to ask this of every guest. It is the famous person question. So I'm going to throw you this, and if you don't have anything offhand, you can tell me to fly a kite. But Caleb, who is the most famous person you've ever met, or at least maybe even saw in close proximity in your lifetime?
I think the first thing that comes to mind would be Tucker Carlson. From Fox News.
Okay.
He was actually an industry event down in Florida. And I didn't know he was going to be speaking to us that day. And I was grabbing a cup of coffee and he was right in front of me in line. So I got to shake his hand. But that's probably the most, there's a few political people that I don't know if they're even worth calling famous. They might be on TV here and there and people know their name, but I don't need to give them more attention. A few football players, things of that nature. But I think Tucker's probably the most well-known person I've ever met. And I see we're on first name basis already. I call him Tucker.
I see that.
Yeah, sometimes Tuck or,
Oh, well, I expect to have him and you on the next time we try to tackle one of these. I have not divulged this before, but so this goes back a lot of years, but my wife and I went on our honeymoon and we were flying to Orlando and we had to stop at the St. Louis airport on the way. So we're at the St. Louis airport, just walking through the main concourse there, and all of a sudden I see Ice-T. So this is Ice-T gangster rapper Ice-T from from that time period. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, you know who that is? And my wife has no clue who that is. And his entourage is walking.
Yeah.
And, I did not approach him because it just seemed like he would have wondered why me would walk up and try to infiltrate the entourage.
Well, he probably would have known you were after his investments.
Yeah, right. There you go. So now, fast forward 24 years. This is the hilarious thing that I find is that, and this just shows aging. So maybe I'm getting more full circle, but Ice-T at that point was, in the news for lyrics and, kind of being hardcore. Now I see him in TV commercials for supplemental accident insurance and stuff. And he's like doing yoga in his studio with people. I'm like, so he went to a TV career and now he's hawking insurance product commercials. It's like, man, that means I'm getting old too. Or, maybe bigger picture, you just got to adapt and change with life as it flows. Maybe that's the takeaway.
Who knows what you'll be doing in 10 years?
Maybe I'll go into my gangster rap career. Well, there's a visual.
You're getting, with this podcast, you're getting pretty familiar with a microphone.
Yeah, I know Eric has been pushing me that we should put video on top of these podcast recording sessions, but I feel like I got to, dress up the room a little bit. Yeah. But we do have fancy microphones, and we've got equipment that they tell me to turn dials on. I don't even really know what it does. But maybe turntables and, who knows what's next. Living the dream.
That's right.
Oh, man. Yeah. I think we've come a long ways, but got any final parting shots you want to throw out there in any topic, any question? We'll tackle anything.
How about with, I saw that there was a recent article out that Americans now believe they need $1.25 million to retire. And I believe before it was $1 million. Do you buy into that? How do you feel about those numbers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Studies like that drive me bonkers, and the media love to project this thing because anybody that would answer that question, probably doesn't know what $1 million looks like versus 1.25, or and I'm going to go out on a limb and think you're going to agree with me that, boy, it maybe isn't how big your pile is. It's cash flow and being properly organized. It goes a hell of a lot further than having a number on your checkbook register.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one warning I would issue to just about anybody out there that's paying attention to stuff like that or paying attention to 8% annual return on average if you just buy an S&P index, or there's what's some other ones. You can live on 4% withdrawals for the rest of your life. You'll never run out of money. I think the one thing I would tell people, it's fine if you read that stuff and you want to use that as a baseline. But if you have a professional that you work with who's using those things, I would be a little nervous just because it seems like there's not a lot of thought going into it. That's one thing we talk about being specialized. And I know even in your practice, you're very good at coaching your clients through these things where, I might say that we hope to average 6, 7, 8%, whatever it might be, depending on the client's situation. But I think what's always important to also explain to people on the front end is that's not going to look like 6% a year or 7% a year. It's going to look like 15% this year and negative 11 next year and 12 the next. It's these ups and downs, but hopefully we're going up more than we're going down. And I think getting people's mind wrapped around that philosophy is huge for them to have success with investing. And then, as far as these numbers and chasing returns, I don't know how you feel, but I'm a big believer in just goal-oriented investing where everybody's got a different goal. Everybody's going to live on a different amount of money. Everybody has different expenses and all those things. So, to say that you should just take 4% a year out of your retirement forever, it doesn't make a lot of sense for everybody. To say you need $1.25 million to retire, I have clients that probably burn through $500,000 a year in just living expenses,
Sure.
So
right.
It's just kind of a funny thing to see that in an article when you see what we see every day.
Exactly. And you're right in my wheelhouse because that's the name of the podcast. What's important now? And I'm also happy to report I just got the trademark for this. So what's important now, financial planning, which I believe is kind of a rhetoric that we should go to because everybody else has always said, plan for 40 years down the road. No, I think you got to deal with, what's your objective? Let's solve what we got to solve today or now, and then deal with the next one and the next one. Because if I look at my own life, when I was 22, if I'd have said, boy, I want to have X amount of dollars of a net worth at a certain age, if I get there or exceed that, and as I sit here today, as a person in my early 50s, it's not about how much money I have. You might have thought that when you were younger, but you get to a point now, it's like maybe you see your parents aging. Maybe you see your kids going into different phases of life. It changes everything. This is not a straight line project. And now I'm getting a visual of the game show with Bob Barker and the mountain climber game. So you got a game where a guy's climbing up a mountain, and eventually you fall off the edge of it. Well, life is a journey, and you got to take steps and enjoy them along the way. And like you say, not everybody spends the same way. So $1.25 million to one person,
right?
That next person might need 12.5.
Yeah, and then another. Again, I won't go too far down this, but another one that kind of cracks me up from time to time. You hear these arbitrary. I think Dave Ramsey is really big into it, but these arbitrary savings goals. You should save 10% of your income or 20% of your income. And if you want to save that, that's great. The more you save, the better. But the reality is for some of you or some of you people listening or clients or whomever's listening, there'll be people who 10% is not nearly enough. And there'll be people where it's way too much considering how they want to retire. Or, maybe they're going to inherit money and we're not looking at the whole picture or whatever it is. There's definitely, I guess where I'm bringing that back to is the quality of life equation every day. What's the point of saving and saving and saving and saving and investing to retire with more money than you'll ever spend in the rest of your life?
Right.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So you got to find that balance of enjoying today and still saving for tomorrow. And I think that's what good planning helps people do versus these arbitrary save 10% or accumulate $1.25 million or whatever it is,
Oh, you nailed it. You nailed it. That's probably where we should wrap it up for today, just because I know we're running short on time. But Caleb, if anybody out there wants to get a hold of you, you want to give your information, whether it's an email or a phone or your cell phone, so they can text you on Friday night or call you. No,
I'm going to keep my cell phone to myself, but unless they invest money with me, then they can have themselves. But my website is CoveyRiseCapital.com. COV as in Victor, EYRISE capital.com. And anything people would need to find is on there, my email or submit a contact form, whatever. So
sure. And if anybody out there wants to contact me or my team or even contact my office in order to get Caleb's information, we're all on the same team here. We're happy to do that. My office phone number, 800-657-4316. Lastly, thank you, Caleb. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Caleb, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being a great guest. And of course, Corey, thank you for facilitating this and hosting an amazing show. And I have one last thank you, and that's to you, listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Win Podcast with Corey Heimensen. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Corey comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask that you share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, as this actually does help others find the show. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at Heimensen Wealth Advisors, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Win Podcast. What's important now? The show that helps you achieve your financial dreams. To ask questions about topics covered during the show or get a copy of Stop Doing Dumb Things with Your Money by Corey Heimensen, visit www.heimensenwealth.com or give us a call at 712-472-3867. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Securities offered through Securities America Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Inc. Heimensen Wealth Advisors and Securities America are separate entities.